Hey everyone, you know how you can walk through a city and feel like you've crossed some kind of invisible line? On one side, it's all gleaming new towers and obvious wealth, and on the other, you've got neighborhoods that feel like they've been left behind. Well, that's not an accident. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden economic blueprint that decides which parts of our cities win and which ones lose.
Let's kick things off with this pretty staggering question. If you have ever, even for a second, looked at apartment prices in Seoul, you've probably had that feeling of just complete disbelief, right? I mean, how is it even possible that a single property can cost more than what an average person earns in their entire life? This isn't just some random market thing. It's a puzzle. And in the next few minutes, we're going to find all the pieces and put them together.
So let's look at the actual numbers behind that question. In Seoul's Gangnam district, an average apartment costs, get this, 45 times the average annual income. 45. Now compare that to the city's outskirts, where it's about 13 times. You see, this isn't just a small difference, it's a massive, massive gap. It shows that wealth isn't just spread unevenly among people, it's spread unevenly across the map of the city itself. So what on earth is going on here? To get our heads around this, we first need to follow the money. I want you to imagine a big pot of honey. The bees that get there first are the ones that get the most, right? It's pretty simple. Well, believe it or not, the same exact principle applies when new money gets pumped into an economy.
Now, this whole honeypot idea actually has a name in economics. It's called the Cantillon effect. And it's a really simple but incredibly powerful concept. It basically says that when a government or a central bank creates new money, it doesn't just spread out evenly, like butter on toast. Nope. Instead, it flows to very specific people and companies first. And those first receivers, well, they get a huge, huge advantage.
Okay, let's break this down step by step. So, step 1, new money is created and injected into the system. Step 2, it doesn't go to everybody. It goes to the first movers. Think big corporations, real estate developers, people with close connections to the government. Step 3, they take this brand new money and they start spending it, usually buying up assets like land and buildings. This sudden demand, of course, drives prices way up. And finally, step 4, by the time this money trickles down to the rest of us as, say, a salary, the prices for everything, especially housing, have already skyrocketed. It all boils down to this. Your closeness to the new money source literally determines whether you win or you lose.
So we get how new money creates this inequality. But that's only half the story. That money doesn't just flow anywhere randomly. It's channeled. The actual design of a city can act like a giant funnel. And there's one specific design that is incredibly good at concentrating all that wealth: the Imperial Blueprint.
So what is an imperial city? Well, it isn't built for things like trade or for making life convenient for its citizens. No. It's built to project power. You know what I'm talking about? Grand boulevards, monumental government buildings, super symbolic architecture. Its main job is to be a physical, in-your-face representation of the central authority's control and prestige. And the difference becomes crystal clear when you put it next to a commercial city. Think of a port town. It's built for efficiency, for trade. Its whole logic is about connection and exchange. An imperial city's logic, that's all about control and extraction. One is meant to adapt, the other is meant to be monumental. And this distinction, it's the key to understanding exactly where all that money ends up. Okay, so now we have our two key concepts, the Cantillon effect, which explains how new money creates winners, and the Imperial City Blueprint, which explains where that money gets funneled. Let's bring these two big ideas together and apply them to Korea to finally solve our puzzle.
And here it is. This is how that process plays out in Seoul. You've got new money coming in from government budgets, from the central bank, and from the chaebols, Korea's giant conglomerates. So where does it go first? Well, it doesn't go to small businesses or individuals. It goes straight into assets in the financial and administrative centers, like Gangnam and Yeouido. So anyone who already owns prime real estate there sees their wealth just explode. And who gets left behind? Young renters, people living in the outer districts, and anyone new trying to enter the market.
This leads to a very specific outcome, something we can call asset-first inflation. It's a really simple idea. The price of assets, especially apartments, inflates long before the wages of ordinary people have a chance to catch up. And that is the direct cause of that insane 45-to-1 price-to-income ratio we saw at the very beginning. And hey, this pattern isn't just a Seoul thing. Take Incheon, for example. There, new money is injected through state-led incentives for these special free economic zones. So all the gains show up in the brand new master plan districts like Songdo, while the older, historic neighborhoods of Incheon are often left in the dust. And this creates what experts call a two-city effect. What you get is a shiny, globally connected city of the future, with all the brand new infrastructure sitting right next to an older city that feels completely disconnected from all that new wealth. It's a really stark, visible kind of inequality.
And you guessed it, we see a very similar story down in Busan. Money from port logistics and big tourism projects gets funneled directly into these select zones like Haeundae and Marine City. Yeah, it creates these stunning coastal areas, but that wealth just doesn't lift up the old downtown or the inland districts in the same way. The result is this patchy, uneven growth across the city. So this model of development, where these targeted injections of money create these pockets of extreme wealth, it's obviously very powerful. But is it the only way? Is this just how things have to be? Well, let's take a quick look at a different city blueprint to see how things could be different. Here we can compare what we can call the Cantillon intensity. In an imperial city model, like some of the Gulf capitals, the money comes from outside sources like oil. It's super concentrated, so the Cantillon effect is incredibly intense, and that creates a huge gap between the insiders and everybody else. But in a commercial city model like Singapore, money comes from trade profits. Now, it's still unequal, let's be clear. But because that money flows through way more businesses and people, the gains end up being a bit broader. Clearly, a city's blueprint isn't just about architecture. It's a blueprint for inequality.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, this framework doesn't just explain some abstract economics. It gives us a brand new way to read the map of our very own cities.
Let's just quickly recap the three big takeaways here. First, the Cantillon effect is the engine. New money is never neutral. It always creates winners and losers based on who gets it first. Second, the imperial city design acts like a funnel, directing all that money to very specific zones of power and prestige. And third, when you put these two forces together, they explain exactly why apartment prices in places like Gangnam can feel completely disconnected from the actual salaries of the people who live and work right there.
So the next time you look at a city map, just remember, it is so much more than just streets and buildings. It's a map of power. It shows you exactly where the money flows, who benefits first, and who gets left behind.
And that leaves us with some pretty big questions to think about. Where can you see these patterns playing out in your own city? Is there a right way to design a city? And maybe most importantly, if you were in charge, how would you direct the flow of money to build a better, more fair city for everyone? Lots to think about. Thanks for digging into this with me today.